So, Dr. Elliot Justin, to be quite honest with you, I was so nervous to have this conversation with you, only from the standpoint that I was afraid I was going to screw up your name and call you Justin Elliot. And,
Mom,
having,
someone else is doing it.
so I've been, I've been practicing the last couple of days to make sure that I did it right, that Dr. Elliot Justin, and this is a show that's really going to, I hope, no pun intended, prick up the ears of the listeners to what's going on in real life here, because this is real life. So, but before we get into the again, no pun intended, the meat of the issues here, um, oh, I'm so ashamed of myself for saying that. Why don't we let's start with your story, because here you are on this incredibly beautiful area in Montana with horses and chickens and who knows what, a relocated New Yorker. So why don't you just start and tell us about you?
Sure. Well, actually, originally wanted to be a spy, I majored in Slavic language and literature. It's almost, I'm embarrassed to say, at Harvard. Uh, and two things I got out of both those experiences. One, I took the test for the CIA. This would be this during the Cold War. I'm 72 years old, and felt, oh my God, this is a corporation, not running the interests of the country. I don't want to be any part. I don't want to be any part of this. The other is one of the one of the interesting things about going to a place like Harvard is you're there with the best and the brightest, and you realize how much that means, but also how little it means. And that was extremely valuable in terms of my development as a man. And but how little it means, I'll specifically refer to the gross lack of common sense on the part of the most intelligent people. If you look at the last century, previous century, what did the most intelligent people embrace? Abstract expressionism in art, does it get uglier than that? Brutalism in architecture, does it get uglier than that? Communism, does it get more stupid than that? Like it hasn't been tried yet, and if only the right leaders would come along, we live in utopia. And then there's and Freudianism, and we now know that Freudianism is largely a crock. So, and we see the same thing in this century as well. I'll just share that as
Okay,
part of my background.
that's fair.
Okay, I haven't gone to Harvard. Anyway, I went to emergency medicine. I had a long career in emergency medicine, started several successful companies in emergency medicine. I was actually in New Jersey most of my career, as I shared with you earlier. And emergency medicine contributed profoundly to my thinking because when you have a problem, you have to run differential diagnosis. And that means you have to consider all angles as opposed to, hey, I got an intuition. This is what it is. You have a heart attack. No, it's actually ulcer disease. So you need to run a differential diagnosis of problems. Jumping ahead to the area that we're going to get into, which is male sexual health, a lot of assumptions, several big assumptions that have been proven to be wrong. Because my mission with FirmTech is better sex, better sexual health for everyone. How are we going to do that? With data. Right now, men's sexual health is not driven by data; it's driven by convention, conjecture, and on the alternative side, by celebrity endorsements. And
It's,
that's a huge problem for men.
yeah, so I'm really curious. I mean, so here you had this successful career in emergency medicine. What Where was the fork in the road for you to say, you know what, my passion now lies elsewhere, or I see something that needs to be fixed. What was that
Sure.
for you?
Well, it really was the result of a challenge that came about because I live in Montana. I mean, so many things in life, we try to plan our destinies. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to study hard. I'm going to take these courses, blah, blah. I want to marry the perfect woman. I got this checklist that she has to meet. And then it turns out the providence delivers totally other things, to us. So I always want to live out west. I always felt the west is best, east is least. Sorry, Michael, I lived in New Jersey a long time. And so it's like, and without here, and it was one thing that appealed to me about the West, I could own horses casually. I want to have type of relationship with horses that man has had for thousands of years, type of relationship that we have with a dog. Was riding in Paradise Valley. Okay, Paradise Valley. Paradise really does exist. It's the next valley over. But don't spread that around, okay?
It's between you and I.
Okay, okay. Shh. So I was riding in Paradise Valley in a really great mood in the summer, and there was a tree over the trail, and someone had cut the tree so you could walk underneath it, but you couldn't ride a horse underneath it, especially if you think that you're one with your horse. So I sometimes have this illusion that I'm a centaur, that I'm one with my horse. It's a dangerous illusion. I broke 6 ribs and 6 vertebrae, and that got me interested in. By the way, that tree never recovered. I recovered, but that tree never recovered. I um I got me interested in what's been done to rehabilitate sexual function in men who've had spinal cord injuries. I fortunately did not have one, and there was some papers in the medical literature, which we all should know after COVID is largely bullshit. They're unreproducible. Saying that you could basically pace human sexuality by planting an electrode by your pudendal and cavernous nerves. These two nerves that come out just above pupa and go into the penis. The nerves are responsible for arousal and climax. And be like cardiac pacemaker. Put an electrode in the heart, you can control the heart. Put an electrode down there, you can control human sexuality. Well, that struck me as a worthy project. I tried it out on 2 rams, 2 male sheep, and got erection ejaculation, but also got defecation and urination. So it wasn't exactly bedroom friendly. Maybe in certain communities, maybe in London or downtown New York might be popular, but it wasn't something that I could bring to the public. So the next step.
But I have to ask this question: did you have contented rams?
it was it was funny because one ram, with the first ram would not get an erection, and we had to actually go. I was working with a veterinary surgeon, go back and get another sheep, and he applied an extra neurostimulator to the sheep's clitoris, vagina. Melt filled the room, and that got the ram turned on. I didn't even know if it was our electricity that got the ram turned on because the ram it wasn't until we brought the sheep in. Anyway, that was a pretty funny scene. You have to imagine that.
I can't. My brain just doesn't work that way. But
So
I think of the Woody Allen movie. Everything you want to know about sex with
yes.
Gene Wilder and the sheep. So
I was thinking about the oar, but you thought about the sheep.
Right.
So I instead of going out and raising $15-20 million, which is the usual thing to do, and then going to some place like Nigeria or Brazil and testing out a bunch of guys with really bad erectile dysfunction, I decided to test out of myself. I had a urologist friend implant the electrode. I felt nothing. I don't think I really understand the neurophysiology, if you will, of sexual response in men or women. That said, because I don't have enough data, but that said, I called this project I tried to get it published. I was unsuccessful, but years later, years later, I mean like 3.5 years ago, a urology professor at the University of Utah heard about this on the last day of the ski season from a surgeon who he almost never associated with, but who knew about this because he's a colleague of mine. So think about all the things that had to happen here to get me to this point. From crashing the horse, and now this conversation with someone I don't even know on a lift I'm not even involved in. This professor at the University of Utah said he wanted to count the number of nocturnal erections that men have because they're a leading indicator of their cardiovascular health. He wanted to work with me, and that's changed my life. And it's changed the future of sexual health. How the diagnosis and management of sexual health in men was changed by that random conversation, if you will, on a ski lift. So this doctor wanted to count. He's my chief medical officer, Dr. James O'Talon, and I owe a lot to him. He wanted to count the number of nocturnal erections that men have overnight. Leading indicator means it's predictive. In medicine, we treat associations, heart attack, associated with blood pressure, but the blood pressure doesn't predict heart attack. If your number of nocturnal erections goes down, a normal man has three plus nocturnal erections per night, and that goes down to 1 plus, 1 minus, 0, you have a 50% chance of having a heart attack in the next 2 years. Well, that's a vital sign of every. That's a real vital sign. One that we care a lot more about than, hey, my blood pressure went from 120 to 130. My resting pulse went from 60 to 72. But those things aren't predictive at all. They're interesting, but they're not predictive at all. So this doctor is what I call a cock ring virgin, like most heterosexual straight men.
Could you say that what you just said, those 3 words, in a way that
cock ring virgin?
Thank you. Okay.
And almost all men are cock ring virgins, and they need to get over it. And that's really a major point of what we're doing. And I didn't understand this. So speak for myself, I've married 37 years. I am fortunate to be married to someone who enjoys sex toys, but almost all sex toys are female focused. But every once in a while, my wife would buy me a cock ring, and they have these hard, silicone rings. They pinch, they're uncomfortable. You want it off your dick 15 to 20 minutes because they choke off the blood flow. I don't have sex without a cock ring now, and let me explain why. Because this is what we've learned. So this doctor, my thought I told this doctor was, let's embed sensors into a cock ring-like form, and I'd rather call it an erection ring because cock ring sounds so vulgar. And the doctors call it, Michael, the doctors call cock rings penile constriction devices. Now, what guy who has a problem, or what guy who wants to improve his performance, wants to put a constriction device on his favorite body part after his brain? Maybe his first body part. No, it's zero. I mean, but that shows the attitude.
So you're saying that someone with ED doesn't want to use a PCD. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm keeping this
Okay.
straight.
Got it. So
Okay.
and so 90% of so we've embedded sensors into I prefer to call it an erection ring because the ring is making your erection better, and now that's quantified. It isn't like, oh, it's for gay guys, or it's for guys who have fetishes, or it's for guys who have had prostate surgery. Men, one of the jokes we have at when we go to conferences like the American Urology Association or International Society for Sexual Medicine is, how do you tell the difference between a straight doctor and a gay doctor with one question? Do you use a cock ring? Gay doctor. Oh, yeah, last night, like you're an asshole. Of course I use you got a better one? Straight doctor. I might have some men who use that, but I don't. Well, it's not about need, it's about want. Now, in a moment, I'm gonna break down how erectile dysfunction should be defined, how older men should think about this. But that phrase, I don't need that. That's just male pride screaming.
Right.
There isn't a fucking woman in the world that says about a vibrator, I don't want to use that. They've been mainstreamed in our lifetime. I mean, when I was, older men on your show will remember in the 1980s, women were embarrassed to use vibrators. Oh, you got to come with penetrative sex. You're going to be vibrator addicted. If you threaten right now to take your vibrator away from your wife or from your girlfriend or whomever, they'll look at you like you're a fucking asshole because it's not just, you can look at it as a crutch, but no, it's an enhancer of pleasure. It makes things easy. And men, that's how men think about, about erection rings. So what I tell doctors or men is when they tell me they don't need it is, well, it's not about need. It's
Right.
about want.
Right.
Do you want to rock harder, have more intense pleasure, have a more intense orgasm, last longer, and have your partner be happier, and have both of you be more confident? Any guy who says no to any one of those should have a mark on his forehead that signals to women or gay guys, hey, this person isn't the sex. Stay away from this person, because everyone wants to perform better.
As at least from some of the things I've read, and I'm far from the expert at all, but that as men age, testosterone levels can be reduced, and you hear about, oh, maybe you should get testosterone supplementation, or do more lifting, or some more resistance training, or all these other things that people talk about in terms of the deficits. But the idea of using a device has become, it's like no one talks about.
No one talks about it. Yes.
Yeah.
And my goal is to mainstream it the way vibrators have been mainstream for women. And here's why. By the way, I don't. If people listen to me, I want to talk about what you can do acutely now about the problem. Obviously, if you're smoking more than one cigarette a day, cigarettes a day, if you're drinking to excess, if your idea of if you're doing cocaine, if you're significantly overweight, if you don't exercise at least four times a week, real exercise, all those things are important to your health and will have an impact upon your sexual performance. That said, by the way, any man who's over the age, who's like my age, or maybe your age, your testosterone is below 300, 340.
We're the same age.
Take tea. I take tea, and I can talk about why. I don't take tea. Well, I'll talk about tea later on, because there's a big study just kicking off at Baylor utilizing our device to objectively determine what the right dose is. We have men buying our product and some doctors using our product for that. It's supposed to like guessing, hey, Michael, we're going to keep you on 600, and how's your energy? Which is bullshit, because I want men to be able to monitor objectively their health. So we've embedded sensors into cock rings. With that, we can then give men data that is objective, actionable, and most important, personal. Because one of the mistakes that doctors make is we treat everyone as if they're one size fits all. It's so stupid because with data, we're all different. So to put me and a woman who's 35 years younger than me on the same blood pressure pill is dumb. And when it comes to testosterone, there are men who respond to one dose, and there are men who don't respond at all and need a higher dose, low dose. So it's just, but let me talk about erectile dysfunction and break it down because I hate that phrase. Men are women. We don't call women anorgasmic, frigid, hysteric, anymore. The feminists came along, and they shot that all down. Women, the incidence of sexual dysfunction among women is higher than it is among men. It's called FSD, female sexual dysphoria. But no one talks about that. Women don't talk about it. Doctors don't talk about it. Whereas men are on this burden of ED, dysfunction. We also have porn addiction, toxic masculinity, the death grip that comes from masturbating. Uh, it's no wonder that a lot of guys struggle to get it up and lack confidence because of these phrases. So let me break down ED into two groups because the doctors group put these two groups together. There's a 10 to 12% of men who can't get it up, or they struggle to get it up. That's dysfunction. That's a penis that's not working. These are men who need to be under the care of a cardiologist and or a urologist because the penis is the canary in the coal mine of cardiovascular disease and other neurological problems, sometimes with diabetes. Those men have a problem, and I have no problem calling those men dysfunctional. But for the other 85% plus of men who get it up and then lose it, well, they got a problem. And the female solution for women is a vibrator, hormone replacement therapy, and now, almost, in the future, almost all postmenopause women will probably be taking T. They want to have a sex life. What's the solution for men? So you got a problem. Now with data you can identify what the problem is. So the first step, and this is what we're working on at FirmTech. I mean, there's 7 published papers. There documented 81,000 erections. You can get the data about your sexual health by wearing this device overnight. If you're having 3+ nocturnal erections and you're having difficulty in bed, there's a problem here or a problem in a relationship, or you're drinking too much, you're trying to have sex, but you have a penis that should work. If you're in the 2 or 3 category, well, in that case, it's likely to be medication side effects. And utilizing our technology, you can then assess maybe this dose of hypertensive medication is too high for me. Maybe I could switch to another antihypertensive medication. Maybe the antihypertensive plus the antidepressant and the flow medication, my prostate, my doctor had me on is killing my erection. So all these things can become objective. So for those men who have trouble, who get erections and lose it, whether the endpoint physically is blood leaves the penis faster than we'd like the penis, whether that's because you just had a fight with your wife, and there are things that men don't want to talk about with their wives. I actually heard about from a couple of gay guys too. They don't want to talk. No guy wants to tell his wife, "Your pussy's too loose. You're 65 years old, and I don't feel anything in that position anymore because you've had 3 kids, and I just don't." No one wants to talk about the friction issue. No man wants to tell his wife, "I'm bored. You want me to have sex with you from behind? We've done 10,000 times before. It's not just it doesn't turn me on anymore." So there are things that people want to talk about the importance of communication, but there are things that men don't want to communicate. And so or the problem could be you've had one or two drinks too many, or the problem could be medication related. Blood is leaving the penis. How do we keep blood in the penis? Doctors weren't thinking about that. So the answer is a cock ring. So the mistake that doctors have made, is common to medicine, is we see, especially academics who set the standards, they see the sickest people in their offices and they study, and then they project that in the general population. So the sickest people, these guys who can't get erections, these are the 10, 12% of guys who have big, big problems. And then they project that problem onto the rest of us. So what are the doctors thinking about? Oh, you have ED, you need cardiovascular workup. Well, every guy who's older should probably have one, but usually their neck. Or the PD5 medications, pipes that come out of the heart, the arteries. Let's open them up with Viagra, Cialis, being the 2 most common ones, which, by the way, don't work all that well. They don't put that much blood in. They work a lot better when guys are healthy. Guys are unhealthy. But they put more blood in. But these men, these other 85% plus of men who get erections and losing it, they're already getting blood in their penis. Yeah, a little more blood's nice, but they need a ring. So, and our data is clearly showing this by, I'll illustrate. The incidence of erectile dysfunction goes up 10% per day through age 50. By my age, it's 70%. The doctors were thinking, me too, as men get older, have more heart disease, we're thinking heart disease. the number of nocturnal erections would go down, the firmness of nocturnal erections would go down, the firmness of sex erections will go down. And that's not happening. Now, if a man has angina, has diabetes out of control, has hypertension out of control, that's true. But the vast majority of men, we get erections, we lose it. And why is that? I call it the fading erections. And it's due to, the doctors call it Venus Lee. I like, and we all experience fading erections. We experience it even that younger than our age, Michael. So when you're 12 years old, 13 years old, you hold the girl's hard on for half an hour, or an hour, you get blue balls. That doesn't happen when you get older. Now, why doesn't that happen when you're 25 or 30? Well, people want to say it's because you're not excited. That's not true. There's something going on with men as they get older. Blood leaves the penis faster, and obviously, lots of factors can play into that: stress, boredom, medications. But as we get older, even without those, even with eliminating most of those factors, our smooth muscle around our small veins, our venules, gets weaker. Happens elsewhere in the body. If I fly to London, sit on a plane for 7 hours, my socks get a little tight, my rings get a little bit tight. Why? Because my smooth muscles are pumping blood back to my heart the way it used to. And in my dick, that means that when those muscles get weaker, it means that blood leaves the penis faster. Any guy, whether he has ED or whether he doesn't have ED, I don't need it, guys, can prove to himself tonight, all your listeners prove themselves tonight that they need a ring. How can they do that? Go to XNXX or Pornhub or wherever you go to, because all men masturbate. Wherever you go to when you masturbate, or just use your imagination, get rock hard, and then do nothing. No stimulation around you, because you'll want to limit the variable of partners, alcohol, marijuana, whatever. Your erection is going to go down 25, 35 seconds, depending upon your age. Then put a ring on it. Ours, of course, but any ring will do to prove this point. And you're going to stay hard for about 2.5 minutes. And what is that telling you? If you want to get harder, if you want to last longer, if you want to hold more blood in your penis, put a ring on it. And there are two studies comparing our maximum performance ring to 10 milligrams of Cialis, most commonly prescribed erection medication. And both those studies show that our maximum performance ring is equivalent to, if not more effective, than 10 milligrams of Cialis as a non-pharmacological solution for men. And the goal, of course, with research that we're doing is to get doctors to now recommend this. Doctors, we think about pills and surgery. We're not thinking about cock rings, and we should.
I just find it's so interesting because we're dealing with this combination of physical and emotional, or how we perceive ourselves. This idea of our virility and strength, and as we get older, it's like, well, do we just say, oh well, I'm older, and this part of my life is over, or whatever, or do we have these conversations and really talk about the things that are in our heads about ourselves? Is it true? Right. And I love the example you gave of, the teenager who holds a girl's hand and, is hard for the next 3 days, biologically, lit up like a light bulb, and as you get older, it's like, well, so I think having these conversations are so important, both on a medical level, but also on a psychological level. How do you break that? How do you break down that door?
Well, I think part of it is we need to stop thinking. We need to make lovemaking a regular part of our life. We need to stop putting it off. We need to be more confident, and the rings can help people to be more confident. Rather than dysfunction, I'd rather talk about fitness.
Okay.
Erectile fitness. That's what we want. We want to be erectile fit for our life. And we're all on a road from fitness to dysfunction. And we all would like to know, where am I in this road? What's really going on with me? Just the way we want to know our lipoproteins, our electrocardiogram baseline, or our blood pressure, and all these other health parameters. Where am I on this road? Well, that's what the TechRing does. It gives people data. It gives them a dashboard, so they can then say, "Oh, I'm in good health, but I'm not. There's something wrong with my attitude." Or it could be, "Oh my God, this dashboard is telling me that I got red lights flashing. How can I make a U-turn? How can I back up? I have issues." could be medication related, could be disease related. So getting data is extremely important. The biohackers talk about how you have to can't hack it unless you track it. Well, now with data, you can track it. That's really valuable.
So this is the Aura ring for the penis.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, and it's a lot more interesting, at least to me, than the Oura ring that I gave away because I don't care about this. I gave it to my daughter. Um, and the other point I want to make about that is opening up your mind to the fact that there's a solution because men, you know, we and I was speaking about my customers and patients. Men will flee from erectile dysfunction. They don't. Many men don't want to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
They want to go online secretly and get some pills. Well, I have no problem with a guy who's 25 years old getting pills because he's dating online and he's meeting strangers and he's anxious. But for a guy our age to go online and get pills, you're making a mistake. You could be masking a significant problem. So it's important to harness technology and get the data about your sexual health just the way you would about other areas of your body. Hey, if you had chronic headaches, you get in your our age, you get a CAT scan or an MRI. If I don't if you had if I had chest pain, I wouldn't say, "Hey, I'm going to go out and get some running shoes and see if how that helps my chest pain." Well, if you're an older guy and you have ED and you're just going to get pills, yeah, it might make you perform better in the short run, but you could be missing a significant cardiovascular,
Yeah.
or metabolic problem.
If you look back, it's like our thinking comes from our experience, right? And if you grew up in a family where and I would imagine that most men our age grew up in families where sex was not talked about, okay, and there was no discussion, there was no openness, so it became this very uncomfortable conversation. If there was ever a conversation, it just became uncomfortable. And and you get to it, well, this is how I grew up, this is what's normal for me. But at the end of the day, it's not normal. It doesn't have to be normal. And we can look at it and say, this might have been what I believed or what I thought or what I felt or what I experienced, but it's not true. So I need to re-examine that to see how I can live my best life. And that's what Chapter X is all about, is this whole idea, not Chapter X as an X rated, but Chapter X as in, how
Well,
do you discover
let's
your best life?
let's make this X-rated for a moment because
Okay.
it's use it or lose it, and that comes to both the health of your penis and also your confidence. The more you do it, the more confident you are, the less likely you are to have atrophy of your penis. I have people contacting me who, often usually for religious reasons, they're divorced or they're widowed. They don't have sex for a couple of years. They're in their 60s or 70s, and they want to resume sexual relations. Well, if you've done nothing, if you haven't been using it for 2 or 3 years, it's smaller, it's more dysfunctional, and there's a confidence issue as well. So I think about the way people approach the rest of their health, and then think about how they approach sex. So, hey, you're in bad shape. You go to the gym. You don't just go to the gym. Oh, what am I going to do today? I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm able to do that. I'm able to do that. No, you have a plan. You get a trainer, or you have a program on your phone, or you have a whiteboard that you work off of. Well, I think that people, especially people falling out of this sexual habit, so to speak, should approach it the same way because here are the benefits of sex. Aside from pleasure, uh, men who have sex every day, by the way, I think an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away. The men who have sex every day could cut their cortisol level between 25 and 50%. Well, that's the stress hormone. Men who have, there's a big study out of the United Kingdom showing that men over the age of 70 who have sex twice a week for more than 15 to 20 minutes versus men who have sex less than 2 times a month cut their risk of sudden cardiac death by 50%. Well, you're going to die anyway. But it, you, doctors, we should be, when you come to me at your age, I should be recommending sex to you. And then there's the impact upon if you will, your psychosocial health, your marriage, your major partnerships. Because we know the couples that have, the more frequently people have sex, the less likely they are to get divorced or be separated. The more likely they have sex frequently, they are to identify themselves as in love, as happy, as opposed to not. And then you have this phenomenon today where they put off having sex, and they stress, kids, grandkids, blah blah, and then they rely upon spontaneity or date nights. Well, if you're just trying to have sex with your partner twice a month on a date night, you're probably gonna have a fight. So or you can drink too much. You can't be spontaneity only works so far. Spontaneity can become an excuse for being, really for being lazy. Michael, I'm a really good cook. If you were going to come visit me here in Montana, I wouldn't be like I wait till you ring the doorbell. Oh, Michael's here. What's in the refrigerator? Oh, I got one beer. I got some rotisserie chicken. I'll just heat that up in the microwave. Oh, I got some ketchup. No, I plan a meal. And people need, I believe people need to, who especially people who've fallen out of a good relationship, a healthy sexual relationship with their partners, they need to plan for pleasure, just the way they do when they go to the gym.
Yeah.
You have a plan.
I like that. I want to go back to, an orgasm a day keeps the doctor away. I think that's really quotable, but I'm just afraid that you're going to get all kinds of angry letters from the apple growers of America. So I'm just trying. I'm looking out for you, Elliot. At our
Well,
age, we don't want to piss off too many people. So
let me cheat again. Put a ring on it.
put a ring on it.
Yeah.
I
So
listen. It's in today's day and age. Here we are. In 2025, the technology exists, the data exists, the open conversation is there for us to have and to explore. And just I'll make a note to. A side note is that in the show notes will be a link to your work and where people can find out more. And I would encourage people to click the link and see what's there. And listen, this is the time of life when we don't need to hide behind, oh, I should have, I maybe, what the hell? Like,
take control.
yeah,
You can now take control of your sexual health. Don't you can't count on the doctors. The doctors, your doctor spends 7 to 10 minutes with you. He has an electronic health record. The electronic health record is telling him what questions to ask. There's nothing, zero about sex in that electronic health record, which is one of the reasons why sexual health care sucks because there's no money in it. He has no motivation to ask you about your sexual health. And then if men raise the problem, the doctors don't ask, well, is the problem you can't attain an erection, you can't sustain an erection, are you not getting a friction from your wife? Under what circumstances you're losing erection? Is it alcohol? They don't. There are like 10 questions they should ask, but they don't ask. Instead, what they say is, hey, take a pill, come back in 3 months.
right.
And that's not how we treat any other problem in medicine. It's not like, hey, Michael, your pulse is irregular. Take this pill and come back in 3 months. And you would think, what the fuck? Got an electrocardiogram machine here? You can get some blood tests? What do you mean my pulse is irregular? Tell me more about that. What do you mean? You want to take a pill? Just
Right.
that's it. So the men can now take control of their health. They need to do this on their own. They can't rely upon doctors, and they need to get their data and then also recognize that cock rings are not a crutch. It's an erection ring. It's a way of enhancing and sustaining your performance.
So,
And we have an app, by the way. It's easy. We also provide notifications. So we're in the Google and Apple stores. The device is easy to use, and we provide notifications, like the one we sent to you, Michael, last week about how, Michael, your erections are 20% harder. Way to go, man. And we noticed Michael, like last month, you doubled your number of orgasms. It's incredible. What are
woohoo,
you doing? What's your
right,
regimen?
right. And because this is really, there's, as you mentioned, there's these different factors that are involved. When it comes to, alcohol, medication, physical fitness, things like that. How does one assess, where what they need to be aware of in terms of making these decisions?
Well, there are really two things. One, and we have this on our website with people even before people want to purchase device. We have a self-assessment. We want to know people's weight, their height. We want to know their base is whether obesity is an issue with them. We want to know about smoking, diabetes, hypertension, the medications that they're taking, but then the data is even more valuable because you could hypothetically, I could be smoking 2 packs a day and not exercise at all, and go through a quarter, unlikely quarter liquor every day, but I still might have decent data with my penis. In which case, all these horrible things are not affecting my sexual performance. That's unlikely. So people need to make an honest self-assessment about the bad habits they have, but you can't expect that reversing those bad habits is suddenly going to improve your sexual performance. But for the vast majority of men who get up and lose it, and they still have one too many beers per day, and they, et cetera, an erection ring is an effective solution, for them.
That's
So it starts with two things: a self-assessment about your overall habits and trying to correct the bad ones in terms of exercise and diet, understanding that the doctor's not going to tell you, understand the impact of medications they're prescribing upon your sexual health, and then getting your baseline data and then tracking where you are as you change things. Is my data improving? Am I having more nocturnal erections? Are they lasting longer? Are they harder? Are my erections during sex, are they getting harder?
again, the whole biohacking movement uh, is something that's kind of foreign to a lot of people, especially in our age group. And
Yes.
to kind of investigate, what does that mean, and what am I willing to do? Because we grew up in this very narrow. You went to your family doctor, who lived around the corner. He when I remember,
They
them
made house
making
visits then.
making house calls, right? Coming with that bag and terrified. This was our understanding of healthcare, and now it's like you're ferried in and out of your internist's office and really fast. But you need to have this. You really need to understand that experimentation and investigation is really important, and that no one died from using a device that would help you track and see what's going on. So I just think it's that
Uh,
level of self-confidence that, hey, this is good for me, this is good for my relationships, and it's worth trying.
well, I agree with you. And we've had a couple of men we are aware of get cardiac catheterizations as a result of seeing what their data is like. We've had two. They were older men. We've had two young men identify significant adrenal problems, hormone problems, because even though they were in the late 20s, they were not having the number of nocturnal erections that they should have had. I'm confident that certainly for men over the age of 45 or 50, that what we're doing 2, 3 years from now will become part of the standard of care, part of the standard workup. Um, because uh, the amount of research that's been done already with our technology, the papers that are being worked on right now about utilizing our device with assessing shockwave therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, aggressive supplement taking, what's the right dose of PDE5 medication. It's going to become, and one of my goals, I want to make it impossible in the future for a doctor to try to or a sexologist, or even a psychotherapist, psychologist, family counselor, to try to take care of a man's problems without first or at the same time, that doctor must find out what is going on objectively with this man's sexual health. Because if a man's problem is easily solved with an erection ring, for example, or by changing a medication, that couple doesn't need to be talking about their childhood traumas. Matter of fact, that could be making things worse.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and as as there's so many questions that we could kind of delve into, but because we do have the podcast gods say you got to keep it within a certain amount of time here. I'm going to bring this episode, this conversation of Chapter X rated, to a close. But as is my want, I want to offer you, Dr. Elliot Justin, the last word.
Men, if you want to enjoy a longer life of lovemaking, use data to figure out where you are. I recommend you purchase our TechRing, get the data of the vital signs of your most vital organ. If you want to improve your performance, open up your mind to safe, comfortable cock rings. Ours, of course, but there are the ones out there that can do it. But don't get one of these tight silicone rings. Get something that's going to allow the arterial blood to flow in. So to summarize it, put a ring on it.
I really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm really hoping that the listeners will really take this to heart, that this is important for your health, for your happiness, for making your life as wonderful as it should be. So again, Dr. Elliot Justin, and I didn't screw it up not one time. I am very grateful to you for sharing this information. And as I said, the information will be in the show notes where you can investigate. I guess the last question I will just throw out to you is that the confidentiality of the relationship.
Yeah, all the data is de-identified and anonymized. We're compliant with the government privacy regulations. So when your data goes to the cloud, it's it's not connected to your name or to your email address. There's only one person in the company who could actually, because it has to be someone. So there's one person in the company who can access the data. If you're going to have a consultation with me, because I offer free consultation to everyone who buys a TechRing, I have to get the permission to see it, to review your data.
Great. I just wanted to make sure that people understood that there's confidentiality and that you can move forward with confidence that that this exploration is yours and yours alone. So, thank you. This was great.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, please give us a review on iTunes. Each review helps us get our message out to more listeners so they can begin to craft their next chapter. For more information or to get in touch, visit michaelfk.com. Until next time.